and welcome to 20 for 20. My name is Christine Robinson with the Elks National Foundation, and today I am joined by Maryann Dernlan, a 2011 Legacy Scholar and a member of the Metuchen, New Jersey Lodge number 1914. In addition, Maryann was also a member of the Scholar Advisory Board, and she served as the first ever Elks Scholar Fellow and worked in the Scholarships Department until 2019. Hi, Maryann.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. So can you tell us about yourself and where you graduated from and what you studied while you were in school?
Yes, I graduated from Rutgers University, the State University of New Jersey, in 2015. I double majored in Spanish and communication.
Awesome. And you grew up with the Elks. Your mom's a member, your dad as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're a member too. How did growing up with the Elks shape your life?
I spent a lot of time at both my parents' Elks lodges growing up. They happened to be members of separate lodges just because my dad was a PER of one lodge and my mom joined a different one, and then she became an exalted ruler as well when I was young. I got to go to the convention in Philadelphia. I think it was in 2001 or so. So I was definitely exposed to a lot of elkdom from a young age and got to volunteer at their Elks lodges a lot growing up and got to have a lot of really patriotic ideals instilled in me and just got to see people doing good work in the community.
And you've attended a lot of national conventions, right?
Yes. I had attended, like I said, that one in Philadelphia. And then once I was on the Scholar Advisory Board, I had the privilege of getting to go every year. And then when I was a staff member, I was also going every year. So I had a run of quite a few years there where I was at every national convention getting to meet Elks and scholars and participate in all kinds of opening ceremonies and things of that nature. Work in the booth too.
Okay, so what inspired you to return to school? So you're pursuing a master's in clinical mental health counseling. So what inspired you to do that?
Yeah, I went through counseling myself in 2015 and it was life-changing. And I heard from a lot of friends and other people in my life how important counseling and therapy had been to them. And if I'm able to provide people with clarity about things in life and just help them to gain a greater level of wellness and overall well-being by investing in their mental health journey, then it's a true privilege and an honor to get to do that. And so I decided to go back to school. I'm currently finishing up, hopefully in 2021, at Concordia University, Chicago. Like you said, with my master's in clinical mental health counseling. And I'm just really passionate about helping people to overcome obstacles that they may have in their life in order to have a life worth living.
That's awesome. I'm so glad that you're pursuing something you're so passionate about, and hopefully 2021 you'll be able to finish up that master's and then get started. So where are you interning now?
I'm currently starting my practicum and internship at an adult male drug and alcohol recovery center. My husband, John, and I relocated to Florida earlier this year for an opportunity he got with his career. And so that had me transition my clinical hours to a facility down here.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they provide treatment for adult males, individual one-on-one sessions, as well as a lot of group therapy and experiential activities and things of that nature.
And so back to your time at the Elks National Foundation. As a first Elks Scholar Fellow, you led the inaugural service trip to Manistee, Michigan in the summer of 2015. And on that trip, there were 5 scholars, and then you ran a lot of trips in between. And then in 2018, we brought 150 scholars to San Antonio for the 150th anniversary of the Elks. What was your favorite thing, or one of your favorite things about the trips?
I would have to say it's really powerful to see the scholars come together to serve and put their time and effort and energy into something so meaningful, such as service. Both trips looked very different. Obviously, with only 5 in Manistee, Michigan, we were working with Habitat for Humanity. We were able to see the progression from the beginning to the end of the week of this house transform from completely unfinished to more semi-finished. And then I would have never thought or dreamed of that we would go from 5 to just in 2015 to 150 scholars just a few years later serving in San Antonio. So I would have to say just the power of the scholars working together for a collective good would have to be my favorite thing. No matter what was going on behind the scenes with the logistics or other things that I might be dealing with, at the end of the day, the main focus was the service. And, we've all seen in this past year, people coming together to serve one another and have an impact in different ways. And I've been privileged to get to see that with our Elks Scholars for many years. And on top of that, obviously, you now have 2 staff members that attended both of those events. Jessica Carter was on the first service trip, and Grace Roebuck had been on service trips and then was at the 150 for 150 in San Antonio. So just to see that those events may have, given them a positive experience, and now they're getting to shape the future of the Elk Scholar experience. It's just wonderful to get to see that they stayed invested.
Yeah, it's awesome to see. And Jessica also attended 150 for 150. And I think Grace attended a few other trips as well. I know that that's a common thing with the service trips, is that scholars will come back because they've had such a great time on their first trip and they want to serve again. And it's obviously great to see that the connection sometimes can be a strong connection with the foundation and lead to wanting to work for that organization. So that's really cool too. So after your time as the Elks Scholar Fellow, you moved into the scholarship relations role. And during that time, you cultivated and coordinated connections between the Elks Scholars and the ENF and Elks. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, as everyone should know by now, there are many, many ways for Elks Scholars to get connected to their local Elks Lodge and Elks members, because we believe that the future of Elkdom is, today's Elks Scholars or tomorrow's Elks. And so we had and continue to have a lot of opportunities. In addition to the service trips, we also had cornerstone grants that I loved getting to read the scholars' applications for what type of project they wanted to do in their area, partnering with a local Elks Lodge. We also always encouraged meetups. When we would travel for things like the National Scholarship Providers Association conference, we'd always get to meet up with local scholars in the area that were at universities near the convention site. And that was always a pleasure to get to connect with those scholars that we might not have ever gotten to meet otherwise. And it was fun to, promote initiatives like Days of Service, where scholars were encouraged to serve with other scholars in their area around the country. And we'd send them, t-shirts to wear to represent Elks Scholars and then get to hear about their experience. So just anything that we could do to facilitate scholars meeting one another and having the resources to do so, and then partnering with their local Elks Lodge in service. It was great to see how creative both the scholars and Elks were in trying to engage each other to, just serve in their communities in a meaningful way. The Elks and the scholars are really the experts in what their local communities need. I've seen that also this year, and following along with your publications on grants and opportunities that Elks Lodges are using to serve in creative ways during the pandemic. And so it was always great, even back then, to see scholars coming up with really innovative ways that they wanted to serve either their campus community or their hometown community.
Yeah, and scholars have really been able to transition to virtual connections, and Grace has been leading a lot of virtual gatherings for the Elks Scholars, and they're able to connect over Zoom and talk about what their scholarship means to them and engage in different types of virtual service activities. I know a group of scholars just completed veterans thank you notes. So there's just a a ton, and a group of scholars is a great group to be able to transition to that virtual makeup of things. So, okay, what about any lessons that you learned from your time at the foundation, maybe from the MVS Leadership Weekend, and how that could translate into your career as a therapist?
Yes. So a part of the leadership weekend and the service trips, but the leadership weekend was really, we did everything in just a few days, right? So we're doing team building activities, service opportunities, reflection to help the scholars to understand, what did I learn as a part of these experiences? What am I learning from my fellow, Elks Scholar peers? And then how am I going to take this with me once I leave? So on this Elks Scholar service trip to Oakland, Justin Schulberg was one of the Elks Scholar leaders, and he used a phrase that I now use in my career: what happens here stays here, what's learned here leaves here. We always wanted the scholars to be thinking about, and now in my future career, I'll always want my clients to be thinking about, what we're talking about now. Once you leave the room is when the journey starts, right? So what are you going to take from this session or this group session or what have you, once you go out into the world and you have to face a lot of things that are, that can be difficult. With the scholars, a lot of it was, we're serving together now. How can you translate this to your campus community? Or we're connecting in this way now. How can you translate that to your campus community or your hometown? So a lot of those principles of really trying to apply what you learned to your life outside of that one experience will definitely serve me well in my career going forward, of just encouraging clients to, apply what they're learning. And I really always lived for those, I like to call them light bulb moments with the scholars, when we would do reflection at the end of the leadership weekend. They're coming off of huge emotional rushes of flying to a new city, like to Chicago, doing their interview for the awards and all of that, and then celebrating on a dinner cruise. And then at the end of the weekend, I know you got to sit in on some of these reflections where we would go around and share things that we enjoyed about the weekend, things that will stick with us going forward. And again, just that application piece of what can you use that you learned here once you leave. And that is something that also propelled me to want to go back to school for my counseling degree, is to be able to see, people of all ages at different life stages, meeting them where they're at, and helping them to, facilitate those light bulb moments as well. And to then help them utilize the information that they learn to have a greater, level of wellness and, be able to have relationships and achieve their goals and, just have a healthier life moving forward.
That's awesome. I think that though the reflections are on the leadership weekends are obviously like a positive experience, and maybe about a very exciting moment in time for the scholars. I've witnessed you leading those, and so I've witnessed the way that you navigate them, and I can just totally see you in that world, like artfully navigating how people are interacting and how they're sharing their feelings, obviously on a totally different level. And I'm just so excited for you to start that, or well, I know you've already started that career path, but to just like be there and be doing that, that's awesome. So it's cool to see that like kind of full circle.
Thank you.
Welcome. So a major part of your role at the foundation was working on the MVS contest, and you recently reached out and said you want to try to blog post, and then like 20 minutes later, there's a blog post in my inbox. And so in that blog post, you reflected on what it was like to serve on the scholarship committee with your mom, Maryann Slater, who's the scholarships coordinator at Metuchen, New Jersey Lodge. So can you tell us about that, and what was it like to be on the other side of MVS judging?
Yes. So like I said in my blog post, I sat down to kind of reflect on what it was like to get to judge the applications this year with the new online system that was very user friendly. And I was just reflecting and realized I really thought all of my new Elkdom experiences were behind me because, like we've talked about, I was, grew up in the Elks. I've been to conventions, service trips, worked in the office, but this was something I'd never gotten to do before. So it was exciting to have a new opportunity. It was also great to get to connect with my mom during, a time of when I haven't seen my parents that much this year. We were in Chicago, moved down to Florida all during the pandemic, and then, saw them just a couple of times this year just because travel was difficult and things of that nature. So when my mom asked me to join, the committee, I was excited. I thought, oh, wow, yeah, this is a great way to get to be a part of something she's been doing. She's been the scholarship coordinator there for years. She's also the lodge secretary, and kind of you name it at the lodge, she does it. She's had a lot of difficulty in the last few years, as I'm sure a lot of Elks can identify with, of getting people to join the committee. People sign up and then for whatever reason are not able to, continue that commitment. And so she's always kind of been doing it on her own. And so in years past, even though there's been an online, judging system for a few years, I don't think it ever really came to her mind, for me to join the committee because, she would want to get people that are showing up to meetings or, or at events, volunteering in person to then join the committee. But in this world of remote COVID-19, just headspace, she thought, hey, you can log on from your home in Florida and I can log on from my home in New Jersey, and we can, serve these students and get their applications scored. So it was a really cool experience to get to read about current high school seniors' experience of, their last year remote or semi-remote or whatever that looked like. They definitely touched upon things talking about how, this year didn't go as I planned, but this is how I made the best of it, or this is how I still served or did X, Y, or Z. Or these are some of the hardships that my family endured, and we do need, some assistance in taking these next steps for me to go to college. So it was a nice way to just connect back with my family and my Elks Lodge and my hometown all in one, and to be able to do it from the comfort and safety of my home in Florida. So I was grateful to get to be a part of it and stay connected in a new way that I hadn't been before.
Yeah, you really have connected with the Elks in many ways.
Yes.
I think that's so great that you and your mom were able to have that experience together and, connect over service, even if it was virtually, because that's how so many people are connecting right now. So it would make sense that it could translate into scholarship judging as well. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and it was just a great way to, we've lost so much control in our lives over this last year, whether it's we can't go where we want or do certain things or see certain people, but I've been encouraged by new ways, like I've been saying, that Elks and Scholars have been able to serve and, step up and be innovative and creative and, leverage technology to serve in new and different ways instead of just throwing our hands up and saying, this has been too much. Really, utilizing that energy for something positive instead of just feeling more helpless.
Yeah, for sure. And like you mentioned earlier, the Elks have really come together to serve despite the pandemic, and in a lot of ways because of the pandemic that need has increased. So it's just that's why we use the hashtag Elks Always Care, because despite this they're still working to help build stronger communities and make a difference. So it's really good observation. Okay, so that's all I have. Is there anything else you would like to say?
Just would like to say hi to anyone watching. Thanks for tuning in. Hi to all the ENF staff. Miss y'all. And obviously, I just always love to, thank the Elks and the ENF for all the opportunities I've been afforded throughout my life. You jump-started my career right out of college, and a lot of my experiences at the ENF, helped to open my eyes to what I eventually wanted to do with my career and going back to school. And I'm just so grateful for all of the support that I've always received, and grateful I can continue to follow along with all of your, online publications and things of that nature. Even if I move far away from Chicago or not even, near my Elks Lodge day to day, I can still stay connected through all the work that you're doing, Christine, in the communications office and all that good stuff. So thanks for getting the message out there and these heartwarming stories. It's definitely something we need now more than ever.
Yay. All right. Well, that should be the sign off. But thank you to everyone for joining us today. And thank you, Maryann, for sitting down and doing this interview and writing an awesome blog post. And thanks to all of you for tuning in. I think I already said that, but thanks again. If you like the show, make sure you hit the like button below and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll see you next time.
Bye.